Hello SLAPAFISH community, welcome back to another Tanks console video. So in this video, I'm going to give you tips and tricks about the 50T prototype that you should know that if you follow these tips and tricks, it will help you be a better player in the 50T prototype. Now the 50T prototype, you get this at stage 100 of the season Flashpoint. And you don't need a season pass to actually get this tank. Okay, and also, the best tank I can really compare this to is Object 252U Defender. Basically, this is like the Defender of the Polish line, okay? Basically, the Defender is the easier of the two to use. This one, like, it takes a little bit more skill to learn because where its sweep points are located, especially where its weak points are located. And this video I'm going to teach you how to hide those weak points and what weak points you should know about on this tank and how to maximize your armor and to maximize all kinds of stuff in this tank. So the first tip I can give you is boost your accuracy. This tank has a very derpy gun. So its aim time is 3.2 seconds and its accuracy is 0.44. What I have it loaded out with, my accuracy is now a 0.31. And since I can't actually show you like aim time in the game, you could say my aim time is better how I have it loaded out. And basically, yeah, you need to like boost your accuracy and boost your like aim time. Make those two better. Also, your TPM needs to be better because you fire 3.82 rounds per minute. That gives a DPM of 1,681. So my current DPM is a 4.72 rounds per minute. It has a DPM of 2,077. So basically, yeah, boost your aim time, boost your accuracy, and boost your DPM, especially your accuracy and aim time, because this tank is the gun's very derpy and it can miss a lot. So you just really need to make your aim time and accuracy better. So how did I do that? Well, first of all, the equipment I use on the tank is improved ventilation to improve everything about the tank, advanced loader to make my reload / DPM better, and gun stabilizer to improve my accuracy of the tank. And I also have the enhanced targeted info. You could always, would be a good idea for this tank, is advanced armor, because it is a heavy tank and it's going to be taking in shots. You could always put that piece of equipment on, and you can also combine the gun stabilizer with the advanced gunling drive to improve your aiming speed. But this is how I have it loaded out, and that's how I'm going to keep it. Now, my crew for the tank is this. I have rapid aim, steady aim, snapshot, run and gun, rapid loading, born leader, deadeye, 6 sense, and armor angling. Basically, I have born leader to improve everything about the tank, rapid loading to improve my DPM, Deadeye to make my gun hit harder. Basically, I have the 4 accuracy perks and aim time perks: the rapid aim, steady aim, snapshot, and run and gun. You don't really need clutch braking. I mean, you could take clutch braking. It is a heavy tank, so I wouldn't really recommend it. Off-road driving is good, but I don't think the 50T prototype would really need it. You could always put situation awareness, silent driving, and what else do I think would be good on this tank? Controlled impact would be good, and I don't think any of these would be good because you have the advanced, the premium repair, like this thing, enhanced repair kit. So I also would put enhanced fractions on to improve everything about the tank. This tank is pretty fast. It's pretty mobile for a heavy tank, so you really don't need the enhanced field boost. Okay, so So now we move on to other tips and tricks about the tank.
Okay, so we are on Tank GG, and on Tank GG, I'm going to show you your weak points. Basically, in the 50T prototype, to make this tank very efficient, you need to know your weak points of the tank. So, most commonly, weak points are the lower plate, and the cupola. Okay? But if they're like very experienced players, they will actually know to hit here. This is actually a weak point. This is a weak point. This is a weak point. This is a weak point. Okay, this is a weak point. This is a weak point. But these don't really come weak points unless you're like straight on like that. You go like this, then this is no longer a weak point, but this is a massive weak point. Okay, so I also want to tell you that this tank only has 218 millimeters of penetration. Right now, this is what 218 millimeters of penetration will be. You can pin this, but it's very, very hard to hit. You can pin this. You have a slight chance of pinning this, and you don't really have a chance of pinning this or this. But as soon as we load premium rounds, now you see the weak points. This comes a more likely chance to pin. This one does too, and this one does too. Okay, and look at that. So premium rounds and high penetration tanks will pin straight through this. They'll pin straight through this, and they'll pin straight through this. This weak point, I'll explain that a little bit more. Okay, so when you're angling like this, when you angle your tank, this becomes a weak point. Like this entire side becomes a weak point. This becomes more of a weak point. Now if you angle like this, this becomes more of a weak point. So don't really angle in this tank. You need to keep your armor face forward. And okay, for this, I'm just going to be showing your 245 millimeters of penetration. Okay, as I click on the AP rounds. Okay, so next thing is hold down. Going hold down the 50T prototype is very good idea, because when you go hold down in the 50T prototype, your turn armor is very, very good, and it will protect you. Your cupola becomes even smaller now. Also, you have 8 degrees of gun depression over the front of the tank. Okay, so when you're using your 8 degrees of gun depression, this comes not very effective. This comes not as a weak point anymore because of how it's shaped. This comes less of a weak point. So does this. So this and this. If you had your lower plate, you're pretty much unpenetrable when you're fighting 6s or 7s. Now, if we load standard or 8s that are just firing standard rounds, 50T prototype is a really good tank when hold down. Also, another thing you used to do when you're hold down is go backwards and forth, drive backwards and forth when you're hold down to make this even a harder weak point to hit. This, and even this. So even the 50TP can even face tier 10 tank destroyers. Even tier 10 tank destroyers will have problems penetrating this tank when the 50T prototype is using its armor effectively, especially when you're using your 8 degrees of gun depression like this. Now, you do have 10 degrees of gun depression, and that is only available over the sides of the tank, okay? Now, your 50 prototype has weak points. As you can see, you have weak points when you use your 10 degrees of gun depression. When you need your 10 degrees of gun depression, it's there. But you do have these little weak points right here. You have them on the same other side too. So, the advice I gave you about using your tank hold down like this, about going backwards and forth, use it when you're using your 10 degrees of gun depression. Go backwards and forth. Like this. And make those weak points hard to hit. And it will work. Make those weak points really hard to hit. Okay? Especially when you're doing like this. and you're moving back and forth, and they're trying to hit this spot, and you're moving back and forth, will hit here, here, or here. When you're doing like this, and they will become very frustrated at you. And it's very funny when they're just bouncing off you. So, we talked about hold down. You should go hold down on this tank. You also should know your weak points of the tank, which are here, 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 and your cupola is a very small weak point. You only have 10 degrees of gun depression over the side. I showed you how to protect from that. It's just go backwards and forth when you're using your 10 degrees of gun depression. Also, don't side scrape in this tank. When you do side scrape in this tank, remember this is a weak point. It's just like knowing your weak points. This is a weak point. If you didn't know your weak points and you started side scraping, you would be getting shot right here. And it would not be good. And you'd be like, how am I losing hit points? And that's exactly why you're going to be losing hit points. But there is a possibility that you can backwards side scrape because of how the tank is angled. That is a very reasonable idea. Look at that. You could backwards side scrape in this tank. Backwards side scraping is a lot harder than regular side scraping. When you do backwards side scrape, you only have 4 degrees of gun depression over the back of your tank, unless you start getting right there. And that's not backwards side scraping. So yeah, when you backwards side scrape, you have 4 degrees of gun depression. Remember that. Another tip for this tank is, also the last tip I have for this tank is, don't face hug. Don't face hug. I mean, you can face hug. You can face hug. The only tanks you can face hug if they're very big, like very tall tanks, and they have no gun depression. And I'll show you what I mean. If they're like tanks that are taller than you and have gun depression, or if they're tanks that are like small. Here, I'll show you what I mean. When they're face hugging you and they have gun depression, they will be able to hit here. This is a part they can hit. This part is a very bad weak point. Don't face hug in this tank if the tanks you're fighting have good gun depression. If they have terrible gun depression, they won't be able to get their gun down here. Also, if you have no other choice, if a tank is like rushing you and it's face hugging you, there is a way that you could protect your weak point right here. Put your gun right there. Like swing it back and forth over that little point, because that is the only place they can actually pin you. If they have more gun depression and like pin there, like if they're a really tall tank, if they're shooting above you and hitting here, there's nothing you can do. Most tanks will be seeing this kind of angle right here, because you are a very low tank, and they will be trying to aim right here because this is about the only place they can penetrate. With your 245 millimeters of penetration, this is the spot you need to protect if you're going to face hug. I don't recommend face hugging if the tanks have really good gun depression. Don't do it. If they have terrible gun depression, like a Roger Dodger, face hug it. Face hug it. So, face hug a tank if it has terrible gun depression. Don't face the tank. Don't face hug a tank when it has really good gun depression. So that's about the only tips I can give you for the 50T prototype. 50T prototype is a very unique tank. Remember, it has an alpha of 440. Has pretty terrible penetration on standard. I mean, it's okay penetration. It's 218. It's a very good heavy tank. If you can learn and master this tank will be your best friend. This tank will be the best tank that you will ever drive, because this tank's fantastic. It's 440. It's really good armor if you can learn to use it and hide your weak points. And you have gun depression to boast along with that. And yeah, So that's it for this video. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Also remember to SLAPAFISH because we're always united. And peace out. See you.